Next, we will see what is a date table. When it comes to reporting, in the case of Power BI, you have to have a dedicated date table. It is also a universal concept, okay? It's not specific to Power BI. So having a dedicated table to hold the date related information, something like date dimension table, right, is very much helpful so that you can use your date dimension table to filter the other tables. Okay, like a time intelligence related thing that you can do. Okay, you must have at least one date table in your model. Okay, but what are the guidelines to create a date table? Can I blindly create a date table? You need to have a column of the data type date. You need to have a date column in your table. That should be either a date data type or date time data type. The second rule is the date column must contain unique values. The date column should not contain duplicate values, should contain only the unique values. And then the date column should not contain any blank values. And also the date column should not have any missing dates. For example, Saturday, Sunday, you don't open the shop. That doesn't mean in your date column for Saturday, Sunday, you are not supposed to leave blank or you cannot exclude it. When it comes to date dimension table, in the date dimension table, the date column should start with the first date to till the recent date. It should not have any blank values or there is no skipped values. You need to sequentially store the date values starting from minimum date to maximum date. Okay. That is what the difference between line item 3 and 4. Okay. And the date column must span full years. Year is not necessarily a calendar year. It can be calendar year, it can be the fiscal year, but the date column must span full years. There should not be any gap here. Okay. For example, you have started your business in March, 1st March 2021. Okay, what happens is when you create a date column, let's the March 15th March 2021 you started. So what will happen? It will start from the beginning. Okay, 1st March to till date. It will store the date values without any gap, without skipping the date values in your date column. So these are the the guidelines you need to remember. Once you are done with that, you can go and set it as a marked as a date table. For example, I just go to the date table. So here we have the date dimension table, right? You just select this one and then click on the three dots. And here you will ask something like mark as date table. Okay, you just click on it here. And here you can toggle this to on. Okay. So, but anyhow, for the time being, I'm not doing that. So that is what the last bullet item does it. So the date table must be set it as marked as a date table. So when you do this, what happens? Okay, when you do this one, it will consider your date dimension table as a date table. And what you do is you can go to your Power BI desktop and then click on the file ribbon and you have something like options and settings. In the options, when you click on it and wait for some, what happens is behind the scene for each date column, Power BI creates the date table automatically. Let's say if I have 10 10 date columns are there in different tables, right? It creates 10, sorry, or 10 date tables, right? 10 different date tables. For each date column, it's 10 different date columns are there. For each date column, it creates date table. It's a redundant, right? So for each date column, why should I have to create a separate date table for each date column, right? There is something wrong here. And here auto date time for so look at time intelligence. So in the data load is it. So you need to toggle this to off. Okay. And then click on OK. For the time being, I'm not going to make any changes. But remember that that is very much important. Okay. So in that case, if you auto date time, if you toggle this to off, for each date column, it will not create the automatic date table behind the scene. That is overkill. If I have 10 different date columns are available in different tables, if it creates for each date column, if it creates the corresponding date table, it's a overkill. 10 tables you are going to create it. So when you toggle this to off, all the automatic date table will get dropped automatically, and whichever date column alone, right? So you can go and set it as mark as date table. That is it. That's it. Okay, you are done. So that is what you need to remember all the things. And so what are the different now you understood the what is the necessity of having the date table. Without date table you cannot you cannot filter the other tables if you want to perform time intelligence kind of analysis. Obviously you need to have the date table. Next one is we learned what are the guidelines. Okay, what are the conditions to create a date table. Now we have seen it. And the next thing is, so how do I create the date table? So auto date, if you don't specify anything, right, it will automatically, for example, in my data model, I have 6 date columns are there in 6 different tables. What for it will create 6 for 6 date column, it creates 6 tables, date tables. That's overkill. That's why I told you how to toggle this to off the auto date time. All the date tables get created by default automatically. That will get dropped, and you need to explicitly create the calendar function. Either you can use a calendar function, or you have something called calendar auto function. Okay, any one of them you can use it. The calendar function, we have already seen it. With that, you can get, and Power Query to generate a data table. So you can go to the Power Query editor. There you can go and create the date table. So for that, you need to know some Power Query commands. That is not worry about, right, how to extract year, month, date, and right? That you can do it. Existing date table. So existing date table, you can clone it. That is one thing you can do it. This one I already discussed. So now two approaches, remember that, to create a date table. Either you can use a calendar function or you can use the calendar auto function. Calendar auto is really, really powerful. See what happens in your model. Let's say you have 10 or 15 tables are there. The calendar auto function, what it does is it goes and picks up the least date value from the date column. Maybe it'll be from any of the existing tables, and it goes and checks the recent date from any one of the date columns in your existing models automatically. The minimum and maximum date picked up automatically by the calendar auto function, unlike your calendar function. In the case of calendar function, you have to use minimum and maximum function. It has to compute the minimum date and the maximum date. But when it comes to calendar date auto, it automatically goes and checks the least date and the recent date from your model. Your model, let's say you have 15 tables or 20 tables. Okay, so you don't have to break your end. The calendar auto table, what a function, it goes and picks up the least and recent date. And also, right, it returns a table, the calendar, like calendar function. The calendar auto function returns a table with a date column. Once you have the date column, with that you can extract year, month name, week number, day name, day number, everything you can extract it. Okay, so that is the advantage of calendar auto function. But here you don't have to you don't have to compute the minimum date, maximum date. It automatically picks up from your model. So in general, the interview will ask you, so what is the difference between what is a date table? So date dimension table is very much required to perform some time intelligence related reports. So in that case, I need to have a dedicated date dimension table. Okay, what are the guidelines? You explain that. And how do you go about creating a date table? So we have used the calendar function, or you can say calendar auto function. Calendar auto is more robust. It automatically deducts the minimum and maximum date automatically from the existing model. That's all. Okay. The calendar auto function, like calendar function, returns a table with a date column in it. Okay. Once you have the date column, you can extract year, month, everything, right? That's also role playing dimension already I discussed. And rest of the things, we already discussed the many-to-many relationship. What I will do is, I will continue tomorrow because most of them, they did not, join today's session. They have some personal emergency. What we'll do is, please bear with me. As of this, I'm going to wrap up this one. The many to many relationship, I'm going to continue in tomorrow's session.